Oh my gosh, you guys. I almost hit my parlay, which means nothing because you don't get anything for hitting 7 out of 8. I'd like to personally thank the New Orleans Saints for not being able to maintain a 10 to 13 point lead and for almost letting the Panthers come back and win the game, which I wish they would have because you guys cost me $750. I mean, granted, it's only a $5 bet, so yes, I lost $5, but I could have won $750. Come on, Saints. I always cheer for you guys. I never say anything bad about you guys. Anyway. Hi, everybody. It's week 13 of Fantasera football. Today is Wednesday, but I had to get this video up today because tomorrow is Turkey Day and we have 3 games going on tomorrow. So I have my start, sits, and sleepers at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver for the games tomorrow, Sunday, and the Monday night game. As always, we'll begin with my first 3 starts at quarterback. So believe it or not, we are going to start with the dumpster fire that is Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams. I knew they were going to get blown out by the Ravens. I couldn't believe the Ravens were only favored by 3. No idea why, but they got blown out. However, I feel like Goff is due for a redemption game. And who better than against the Arizona Cardinals? Arizona is still ranked dead last in pass defense. They're giving up an average of 297.5 passing yards per game. They've allowed the most passing touchdowns of any team this year at 29. Basically what I'm saying is that if Jared Goff can't get it done against the Cardinals, the Rams need to get their money back. Okay, I realize they can't get their money back, but if Jared Goff doesn't throw for at least 3 touchdowns and 300 yards against the Cardinals, the Rams need to make him do something productive. Like if you go to a restaurant and you can't afford to pay the bill, you have to wash the dishes. Jared Goff should have to wash like all the team uniforms for the rest of the season if he doesn't do well in this game. On the opposite side of this matchup, I also think you start Kyler Murray in this game, especially at home, coming off of a bye week. We all saw what Lamar Jackson and the Ravens did to that Rams defense. I am not saying that Kyler Murray is Lamar Jackson, but he has been on fire. And like I said, coming off of a bye week, they have had time to prepare. I'm expecting this to be a high-scoring game, a lot of balls thrown through the air. I think that Kyler Murray and Jared Goff are both solid starts for this week. I realize that Mitchell Trubisky has been either dropped or just given up on by most fantasy owners. I get that. However, he did show some signs of life in their Week 12 win against the Giants. Granted, it is the Giants, but this week they're going to Detroit. Detroit just lost to the Redskins. If Detroit can lose to the Redskins, they can lose to the Bears. Matthew Stafford could be out for the rest of the season. As I mentioned in my last video, the Lions are on their 3rd string running back. They have no offense. The Bears have an amazing defense. I'm basically just expecting the Bears defense to do so well that Mitchell Trubisky and the offense have the ball for most of the game. So if you're desperate for a quarterback, I'm sure he's available. Maybe you've just kept him on your bench for a rainy day because there was nothing better available. But I am giving Mitchell Trubisky the Week 13 start. That was scary to say. So if you do it, I really hope it works out for you. Let's get into quarterback sits. I think the highlight of the games for me last week was the Raiders getting blown out by the Jets. I had the Jets +1 on my parlay, so it felt good to be right about that, but not even just beating them, they killed them. The Raiders got smashed by the Jets. So great. It's hard to be a Broncos fan this year, so you got to take every little victory you can get. So Derek Carr is a sit for me this week. They are going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. I was talking a lot earlier in the year about how the Chiefs' secondary and pass defense is awful, but they have continued to improve. So, being that their defense is improving and Kansas City is one of the toughest stadiums to play in as a visiting team, I would keep Derek Carr on the bench, look for a better matchup. Phillip Rivers is another sad story, but I still see people putting him in their starting lineup. So maybe people were just thinking that's an obvious start because it's Phillip Rivers, but I've really never been impressed by Phillip Rivers, and now he goes to Denver. Our secondary is pretty much the only thing we have going for us. I think they hold up in the Mile High City against the Chargers in a division game that literally means nothing because I don't think either of us are going to the playoffs, but it's still that division rivalry. I'm expecting the Broncos defense to show up. If the Chargers do anything but run the ball with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, I'd be shocked. So Phillip Rivers is a definite sit. We have seen Deshaun Watson be vulnerable just a couple weeks ago, and I just think this is a risky start, another boom or bust against the Patriots at home. Through 12 weeks, the Patriots have only allowed 4 passing touchdowns. I don't like the matchup for Deshaun Watson. I realize in most leagues, if you have him, he is the best start at the quarterback position. So if you have to, you have to, but consider this a fair warning. I don't think he has a good game against the Patriots. Despite the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars have been outscored 75-33 since the return of Nick Foles, the head coach claims that they will not go back to Gardner Minshew at the starting quarterback position, so I think there's a lot of pressure on Nick Foles, but I think this is a great week for that pressure to be on. They're taking on the 31st ranked Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of passing defense. If he's going to have a big game, it might as well be this week. It's likely to be this week. I don't even know if anybody has Nick Foles on their fantasy team, but if you're in need of a quarterback, maybe go see if he's available. I really like the matchup for Le'Veon Bell this week. They are playing at Cincinnati. The Bengals are currently ranked dead last in rushing defense. The Jets are on a 3-game winning streak after they blew out the Raiders. Just can't say that enough. And I like Le'Veon Bell in both standard and PPR leagues as far as receptions. In the last 5 games, he's gotten 22 receptions on 25 targets for 193 yards. With Eagles running back Jordan Howard out with a shoulder injury, Miles Sanders is leading the Eagles in both carries and snaps. I'm expecting him to have a good game against the Miami Dolphins, who are currently ranked 31st in rushing defense. Jones has been getting consistent carries so far this season, and he's proven to be fairly reliable as a receiving back as well. They are going to Jacksonville, and the Jaguars have given up the second most rushing touchdowns of any team this season at 15. Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals is at home against the New York Jets this week. I have him as a sit because the Bengals offense has done nothing worth talking about, and Joe Mixon only has 1 touchdown on the season. The Jets are currently ranked 1st in rushing defense. Leonard Fournette rushed for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns last week at Tennessee against the Titans. This week, however, will be a tougher matchup for him against Tampa Bay. I do think that the Jaguars have a better chance of winning if they throw the ball rather than run it, so that is why Leonard Fournette is a sit. Chris Carson is going to be my final sit at running back for Week 13, and not just because he's fumbled 7 times. Carson was held to just 26 yards on 8 carries in last week's win over the Philadelphia Eagles. This week, the Seahawks play the Vikings. Through 12 weeks, the Minnesota Vikings defense has only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, and they are keeping opposing rushers to an average of less than 100 yards per game. Darius Juice at Carolina is going to be my Week 13 running back sleeper. He is currently splitting carries with Adrian Peterson, but neither of them have done anything remarkable so far this season. However, the Carolina Panthers have allowed the most rushing touchdowns of any team this season at 19 and have allowed an opposing rusher to score in 10 of 11 games. DJ Chark didn't do shit last week against Tennessee. However, I do like the matchup better this week. As I mentioned before, the Jaguars are going to need to throw the ball if they want to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a good matchup for Chark. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are allowing the most points to opposing wide receivers. Other DJ took part in destroying my parlay. Had a huge game against the Saints, 6 receptions for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now taking on the Washington Redskins, who have allowed 20 passing touchdowns. Expect another big game from DJ Moore. Tyler Lockett probably should have had a better game last week against the Eagles secondary. He finished with just 1 reception for 38 yards and no touchdowns. The good news for him is the Minnesota Vikings are somewhat vulnerable when it comes to their pass defense. While they are great against the run, they have allowed a 100-plus yard receiver in 4 out of the last 6 games, so this could be a bounce-back game for Tyler Lockett. If you've had Will Fuller on your fantasy team this entire year, you have probably already benched him after his 7 receptions for a 140-yard game against the Colts, because if you've had him all year, you know that he does not do well in back-to-back games. He is the epitome of a roller coaster wide receiver. He has a great game, then he's non-existent, then he has an 80-yard ridiculous catch, then we never hear from him again. Will Fuller just had a good game against the Colts. He doesn't do well in back-to-back games, and on top of that, this back-to-back game happens to be against the New England Patriots, who are allowing the fewest points to opposing wide receivers. So Emmanuel Sanders' best game came against the Arizona Cardinals, who, as we know, are ranked last in pass defense. Since then, in the 49ers' last 3 games, Emmanuel Sanders has just 6 receptions on 10 targets for 72 yards, so he has not been a major factor. This week, best game of the week, I think it's going to be the 49ers go to Baltimore to play the Ravens. I think it's going to be a great game. I just don't see it being a big game for Emmanuel Sanders, so I would try and find a better matchup at wide receiver if you can. As I said earlier, outside of the run game with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, the LA Chargers really have nothing. Mike Williams hasn't scored a touchdown all year. It's doubtful that his first one comes against the Denver Broncos, who have only given up 5 touchdowns to receivers lined up out wide. And finally, my Week 13 wide receiver sleeper is going to be Sterling Shepard if Golden Tate is out. Golden Tate is in concussion protocol right now. If Golden Tate doesn't play, that will move Sterling Shepard back into the slot receiver position, where he performs much better than when he lines up out wide. So keep an eye on Golden Tate. If he remains out in concussion protocol, I think Sterling Shepard is a good option. Maybe if you have him instead of Emmanuel Sanders or some of those other sits that I had for this week. Other than that, that's all I got. As always, thank you guys for watching these Fantasera football videos. This week I'm going to do 2 parlays. So I'm doing a Turkey Day parlay for the 3 games tomorrow, and then I'm doing another parlay for the remaining Sunday and Monday night games. So I will list both of those as soon as this video is over. If you guys haven't yet, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram at Fantasera Football 2019. Good luck in all your fantasy leagues. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I will see you guys next Thursday. So, as I expected when I was recording these clips, because I knew what was going on, going back and editing through them, I seem rather distracted. So if you're wondering why, it's because basically in every single clip that I did, I got a notification from one of my 4 fantasy football leagues that one of my players' status went from healthy to questionable. So I got about 12 to 13 of those notifications while I was recording. I haven't even opened up my app to look at my team yet. I'm like terrified to see who all is out or questionable or all the different reasons why I'm probably going to lose this week. But I apologize for seeming distracted. I really couldn't help it. It was just like blow after blow after blow after blow. about why I'm going to lose. So I hope your players are healthier than my players, and we will see what adjustments I need to make in my 4 lineups before tomorrow's game. Good luck to all you guys, though.